Hello, Avram.
Hey, how's it going?
You have got some pretty intense background noise tonight. Make
I
but make a
do?
little
Okay, hold on.
make a little bit of human noise.
Okay, how about this? Is this, I have
There,
this
it's gone.
on voice.
Yep, it's gone.
Better?
Yep,
Okay, all right, very
yep.
good.
Apparently, it just needed some vocals to clear the background.
To filter it?
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right, very cool. Let's see, what would be the best thing to talk about for this today? Well, I could talk about a couple of different possible things. One, I could talk about um, the we're putting up a list of the best gaming laptops under $1,500 and under $1,000, and I can talk about what you can get today if you're shopping for a gaming laptop.
Okay.
That might be a good one. Um, I could talk about our list of best 3D printing filaments, but maybe that's a little inside baseball if you don't do 3D printing already.
Could be.
Um, yeah, and I could talk about this juicy story that we're doing on that we've been following about T-Mobile, which is different from the story that you have on the list today.
Okay.
Uh, but maybe I should just mention it during our T-Mobile segment, uh,
Okay.
which is about T-Mobile's home internet service and the ups and downs of T-Mobile's home internet service.
And how it's
Um,
still not available here.
oh no, no, that's not the problem.
I know.
The problem is okay.
Oh, I just assumed it wasn't
Okay.
because I don't have service yet.
No, no, no. I mean, the problem isn't that it isn't available everywhere.
Right.
The problem is where it is available, it doesn't work.
Okay.
Um,
And I,
and
and
one
I
of
know
our
they're also
writers had
having
his
issues. Maybe it was your article that I saw, unless yours isn't out yet, um, about somebody who was using it and then all of a sudden it just stopped. The game over.
yeah, correct. That's my editor. But
Okay.
we have more. We we did do it, and it's ongoing. There is
Yeah.
some new information that is going to be coming to light this week that we are unearthing.
Got it.
Let's say, but yes, that was us. That was
Okay.
that was us. So, but I mean, I think the thing to do, I guess, let's talk about what you can get in a gaming laptop, and
Okay.
we can go from there.
Okay. Yeah, your laptop stories have been doing really well lately.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean we
So did
are
the
putting up.
so did the secure wipe episode.
Well, see the secure wipe. I like because I always love things where I can actually show someone how to do something rather than
Yeah.
just helping people spend money. Um, you know, I'm all about spending the money. Don't get me wrong, but well, I'm always great when I can actually show somebody how to make better use of the things that are in front of them. So
Sure.
yeah, um, but sure. Why don't we go? Why don't we go with that? Uh, While we go with that for this week, we will have some other interesting. Sure, I'll have some other interesting stuff next time regarding some tips. But all right, let's go with that.
Alrighty. There.
How to find a great gaming laptop? What you can get, for under $1,500 or under $1,000.
Okay. Sounds good. And that'll be a good tie-in with Strike as well. So all right. You saw. Oh, holy cow! I can't believe I screwed this up. Hold on.
I didn't see you put up the Warner Brothers
Yeah, it's not.
DC one.
It's not out yet. It's been. It's been one of those. one of those weekends. News. I forgot to assign the stories to the topics. Because again, it's been one of those weekends.
I'm sorry to hear.
Just busy. Lots of stuff going on. View. Hey, look how there are stories in the rundown now. Much more useful. Oh my goodness. All right. I am ready if you are. I need to remember to hit record.
Yeah.
This week, T-Mobile is headed to space, Sony is headed for higher prices, DuckDuckGo is protecting your email, and DC might finally be ready to take on Marvel. It's Sunday, August 28th, 2022, and this is episode 631 of F5 Live Refreshing Technology, a proud part of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. Wherever you are and however you're accessing our show, whether it be on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or Snapchat, through a podcatcher like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or a myriad of other options. There are live stream partners like livestream.com, Twitch, or YouTube, where you can become a member and get exclusive content and ad-free episodes of F5 Live and the Piltch Point, or on our website, PLUGHITZlive.com. Thank you for making us a part of your day. There are two ways that you can do that. The first is Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern. You can go to f5live.tv/join us. There you can chat with us in the studio, give us your feedback on the topics as we talk about them. If you can't join us live, that's okay. PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows, including F5 Live, Piltch Point, and a whole lot more. And of course, you'll find all the ways to watch, listen, and follow along. All right, Avram, we are back. How have you been this week?
Not bad, not bad. Time really flew by. I have to say,
didn't it?
There's a lot, that I wanted to get done that I did not get done work-wise, but decent week. I had a lot of fun taking my kids to a science museum today around here, so that was cool.
I saw that.
Yeah, there's a giant. It may be traveling, so there may be other areas getting it soon. But there's a giant Minecraft exhibit that at the Liberty Science Center here in the New York area. And so my son, who's obsessed with it, we had to take him. It was, if you play Minecraft, you wouldn't have learned anything new about the game,
Sure.
But they had giant life-size characters that you could take your picture with. So
Gotcha.
there was that. So it was cool. He enjoyed it, and then we went to the planetarium and saw a little movie about black holes, and it was cool. So we had fun there. Otherwise, I don't know. Just behind on all the work I need to do. Oh, and I've been 3D printing a lot of stuff. In fact, I think right now behind me is 3D printing something because we 3D printed my 3-year-old daughter she wants a treasure chest. So I 3D printed her a little treasure chest, and then she was bugging me that she wants a key to the treasure chest.
Sure.
So I found a print on Thingiverse that has like a treasure chest and then like a little lock and a little key. I don't know if that actually will work or it just looks looks functional.
Sure.
But I'm printing that for her. I'm printing her the key right now. So we will see. But yeah, so I guess that's been my week. How about you?
Uh, a busy one as well. Uh, we got a lot done over at Strike this week, which is always good. Dave Mendez, who our regular viewers may know, is one of our uh, producers for special events. He did some lights and all kinds of stuff. And we've got some tournaments coming up. If you are a Fortnite player and would like to play in a... I swear I will remember this name one of these days. I think it's called a kill race. You can go to strikeesports.com and sign up to participate. We're going to do 3 of them for the next 3 Saturdays. And you can win 13,500 Fortnite V-Bucks. So if you're a Fortnite player, I believe that's about $80 worth of in-game currency credit. So that's pretty cool. So definitely looking forward to that. We've been doing a lot of work to get ready for that. So that's been a lot of my week. It's been getting ready for that stuff, doing new graphics, and all the things that come with an event like that. So that's mostly been my week. Yeah, I think that sounds about right. We've also been doing a lot of 3D printing in our neck of the woods because we've got some retail stuff going up, and I needed the little hooks that go on the pegs for some boxes that didn't come with them, so we 3D printed those. So
so hooks to hold something, hooks that actually have to hold something of weight.
No, they're empty
like
boxes.
You have to actually do, but it has to hold something.
Yeah.
So what I'm just real curious, and while I'm mentioning, I'm going to plug the fact that Tom's Hardware, we just put up our list of best filaments the other Friday, where our expert Denise Bertacci has tested hundreds of filaments and picked her favorites. But what kind of material did you use to print them?
I'm pretty sure that Chris used a pretty standard, actually a little old school, because I think it was an old roll of just standard PLA. No, nothing special.
Interesting. Yeah, so I find, most, for the benefit of our audience, the most popular type of filament is PLA. I got some here that was a piece of something, but it's also a little brittle and can break fairly easily if you drop it, or it can melt in the sun if it's exposed to too much direct sunlight. So a lot of folks like to use other materials which are a little bit more difficult to print with, such as PETG and ABS. So I have just bought a new roll of PETG, and I'm going to try doing some PETG today soon, because that is supposed to be more durable. On the other hand, when I have tried to print PETG before, it's become very stringy, which is one of the problems with it, is it can be very stringy. Gotcha. So I was kind of curious because apparently, the brand of the filament, and if there are any additives in the filament. There's some PLAs that have certain additives, like carbon fiber additive, that make it better to work with. But anyway, I'm always just curious what folks are printing in, because even though PLA is the most popular for functional objects that have some pressure applied to them, that have to carry weight or something like that, it seems that PETG is supposed to be better. If you're printing out, just a model of Grogu or the Mandalorian or something to put on your desk, I'm being very specific because I actually did that. Then printing them out in PLA is fine, because whatever, as long as nobody drops them, they should be okay. But if you're printing a hook to lift something, or something like that, I think that a different material would probably be a more a better choice if you could, because it's more durable.
I will tell you that the first design, and anybody who's, well, worked in retail for sure will know what we're talking about. But anybody who's basically purchased any electronic in a retail store ever will know. So, right, you've got your peg, and the things hang on it, right? And some products have an open hook, and some products have a closed hook from which they hang. And so the first thing Chris did was he designed an open hook version, and he printed it. And while it was printing, it cracked. um, and so he comes to me and he's like, I don't think this is gonna work. I don't know that this thing is gonna work. And I hung it, and it did hang from it, no problem. But I was like, ideally, I'd like it to be closed. He goes, oh, that's better. And off he went, and he came back, 30 minutes or 45 minutes later, and he hands me a new one. He goes, here, will this work? That is perfect. So yes, the first one legitimately cracked, I think, while it was printing, and if not while it was printing, certainly while he was taking the support materials off of it.
Yeah, the
second
support
one,
materials are the yeah.
second one was no problem. He handed it to me. It was a solid loop. Here you go, and it worked like a champ.
The support materials are the real problem, aren't they? Like right here,
Yeah.
I have a raft or something I printed, because if I don't use the raft on it, it like doesn't stick to the bed, and then invariably, like on my daughter's treasure chest, like part of it wouldn't come off no matter what I did.
Yeah.
It's very annoying. So I guess we're sort of at the place where I'm old enough to have used paper printers when they were a real pain in the butt, and were monochrome only, and you didn't get great quality, but people still felt like they really accomplished something if they printed a tiny graphic on it.
Uh-huh.
Well, I think that's where we're at with 3D printing right now, and hopefully a few years from now we'll be where we are at with 2D printing today, where it's really easy, affordable to just print out full color, high res, really fast.
Yeah, for sure. That would be pretty fantastic. Yeah. I'll send you a picture next time I'm in strike. I'll send you a picture of the thing that we made, because I got a couple of them. But anyway, we've got some stuff to talk about tonight, so I say we get down to it. This week's Nifty Gifties on F5 Live is proudly powered by the Microsoft Store. Whether you're looking for a new laptop, a tablet, an Xbox, games, or a whole lot more, you can get them at the Microsoft Store. And remember that current students, faculty, parents, and active military can save up to 10% off almost anything. And to browse the products to learn more about the discounts, you can go to f5live.tv/Microsoft. If you live in a rural area, you know how difficult it can be to get all sorts of services. Basically anything that involves electronic infrastructure, whether it be a solid wired internet connection or cable or even cellular service. It can be a real pain. Over the last couple of years, we've seen some new innovations come into the space. There's been satellite internet for a while. Companies like HughesNet, that I think used to be part of DirecTV and then wasn't and then might be again. I don't know. They were offering, they might still offer satellite-based internet, although for a long time the upload was still dial-up based and the download was satellite-based because it wasn't a two-way communication. Luckily, over the last couple of years, that technology has gotten better. We know Elon Musk has Starlink, which is actually a surprisingly solid connection. Todd Cochran from Geek News Central has a Starlink connection that he cannot believe. how well it works. And he's out in a rural area where he could not get a solid wired connection. And so let's move forward to the near future, and we're going to actually see Starlink be used to produce a cellular signal as well. It's not going to be a world-class signal, but it is going to be a cellular signal that will be able to be used in areas where it's impossible to build a tower because of regulations or licensing, or the people who own the land don't want to have a tower there. There's all kinds of reasons why it's impossible. It's also sometimes impractical, to put up a multi-million-dollar cell tower for 6 people, because there's no way that ever gets paid off. So there's lots of problems in rural areas and places with smaller populations. And so T-Mobile and Starlink are teaming up. The second generation Starlink satellites are going to have the ability to be used essentially as cell towers. Now, data speeds aren't going to be great, and Elon Musk kind of joked that if there aren't many people in the area, you might get video. But the point is that you'll have cellular. You'll be able to make calls, send texts, normal cell phone things, without the huge expense of putting up towers, because Starlink's already putting satellites in orbit for their own purposes. And so multi-purposing them, doing a little bit of licensing deal with T-Mobile totally makes sense. It's what happened with Dish Network and Sirius before the Sirius XM merger. Sirius was actually licensing time on Dish Network satellites to make the process of getting satellite radio easier, and not having to put as many satellites up. Exact same thing here. I think this is a really smart move on both Starlink and T-Mo's.
Sure, why not? T-Mobile has been really good about doing things to try and sort of provide extra value to customers, whether it's giving them some level of free included international service when they're traveling. Not the fastest, but
T-Mobile Tuesdays.
Yeah.
Right?
I never found anything I like. I'm a T-Mobile member. I've never found anything I liked on T-Mobile Tuesday, but
20 cents per gallon back on Shell gas.
Oh, okay. I don't really buy the gas in my family, so I wouldn't have noticed that one. But I don't know if we even have Shell around here. But yeah. So anyway, sure, this is a good move by them. People want to have their at least have some degree of reception where they're going.
Sure.
I have to say that while I really like my T-Mobile service, it's not equally good everywhere I go, even in my local area. It's not great in my house, although it doesn't matter because I have Wi-Fi. As long as my home internet is working, and
I've got a repeater on this building. Just in case.
That's not. My biggest concern is when I'm out and about. It seems to be pretty decent, but I don't get anywhere near 5G speeds on my 5G phone. I actually get better speeds when I turn it to LTE only. Now it could be that because my phone doesn't support the M-Wave band, so maybe that's the big issue. But
because
anyway,
5G standard speeds aren't that much different than LTE, the final generation of LTE.
Yeah, today I took a trip to New Jersey, and as we were driving down the highway, there was actually a T-Mobile ad, and it said, it's very coincidental, 5G from here to Philadelphia. which if you travel, I think the road we were on was like I-95 or something. We travel down it like from where we were in northern Jersey, you keep going and you end up in Philadelphia. So the sign was like from here to,
Right.
although that's like 2 or 3 hours drive. So I thought, okay, normally I have my phone at LTE only because it actually, if I have it on 5G anywhere near my house, it's terrible. It's like operating on 3G. So, which is weird because your phone should be smart, and you would
Right.
think and say, oh, 4G is better here, so I'm just going to stick with LTE. But it doesn't, unless there's no 5G at all. If there's any 5G,
Right.
it will try to grab the bad 5G. So I do this, and my wife does it on her completely different phone. We set the phones to just do 4G, but I wanted to try this, so I set it to 5G, and I did a speed test, and I got like 40 down, 20 up, which is decent. It's pretty decent, but it's not 5G. I mean,
Right.
in that I've gotten faster on 4G on LTE. Now, in the same area where I switched to LTE, it was like 16 and 16. So the 5G actually was better where I was testing
Okay.
by a little bit. But, you know, I was in the impression that, I've never gotten a 5G speed that was like, these you know, hundreds of megabytes per
Sure.
second that you're hundreds of megabit per second that you're supposed to get, right? I've never gotten speeds that were better than a good 4G connection.
Yeah.
So,
And
uh,
I experienced that too. It So inside the studio, I only get 5G, right? And then as soon as I step out of the studio into mission control, it goes to 5G UC. Like it's the threshold for the studio right there. When I when I step past it, I go to 5G UC. So sitting here right now, I just got 18.8 down. But
right.
if I cross that door, I'll get 160 down.
Oh, well. Now,
Unfortunately, the repeater that's in here is not 5G. So it was a review product from a while back. So it's actually a 4G repeater. So I get a significantly stronger 4G if 5G isn't great. But yeah, it's wild the difference between standard 5G and 5G UC, which is what T-Mobile calls millimeter band. So as soon as I step into mission control, boom, I'm gonna go up by 8x.
wow. Well, this phone I have doesn't even support that because it's a Pixel 4a 5G, which doesn't have that band.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the next phone that I get will maybe we'll have that, and then we'll see. But yeah, I mean, it's good to know. Like, as I'm a T-Mobile customer, and it's good to know that if I was going somewhere that was a little bit off the grid, that there was a better chance I would get some kind of signal.
Yeah,
So
because when we did
so I
our
like
our
that.
road trip, beginning of July, there were a lot of places I ended up where the phone would go 3G, and then dot 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 3G 4G 5G 4G 3G dot 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 dot. So I mean, we ended up in some places where we wouldn't have had service, and I think the audience knows that we had car trouble and the rental car died on us. That would have been horrible to have happened in one of those dead zones. Fortunately, we also had an AT&T phone with us, and between the two devices, we were never without service, which I thought was interesting. But they were on and off at different times, but we were never 100% without service. But we're the oddballs, right? Most people have one service across a group.
Yep.
So, and the good news here is I know everybody's hearing satellite and phones, and they're thinking Jurassic Park 3, and a phone that only calls on satellite. It's a very different thing. Not the case. This is going to work on the quote is most, if not all, of the active T-Mobile phones. Now, if it's one of the older phones that's been around for a while, it may or may not. But This is supposed to support basically anything that's out there right now. So you won't have to have anything special. You won't have to say, well, I might end up in one of these places. I need to get this model like we were just talking about with 5G and 5G UC, right? There's none of that. The standard devices that are on the market should all work with this new feature, which I think technologically is fascinating. I can't wait to hear more about how that works. But I also look forward to seeing it in action. I suspect that one of us will figure out how to do some tests on it.
Yeah, I mean,
I
mean,
live.
we don't do a lot of. So to be fair, we don't do phone coverage at all at Tom's Hardware. We used to before my time, and then it was decided in the company that that would be Tom's Guide to do. And now phones are not a kind of enthusiast topic that we cover.
Right.
But interestingly, since
one of the sisters should
we
at the very least.
Yes, I'm sure they will. But maybe, hopefully. But anyway, but interestingly, we had an interesting. One of our editors, Brandon Hill, had a very interesting experience with T-Mobile's home internet service, and home internet, like, I think this is what everybody would like, right?
Uh-huh.
Like, you would like 5G to be able to replace your home internet provider. You would like it to be able to replace Fios or Spectrum or Cox or Comcast or one of those.
Because that gives us one more alternative, right? Because you and I talk all the time about the internet monopoly for so many people. This bypasses that and gives another alternative. And with competition comes fixes.
Yes, right. So that's, for one, it brings more competition. For another, the installation cost is like nil, right? No one has to come to your house to install it.
Drill holes.
So drill holes, install it, whatever. It seems like a great idea. However, there's probably a reason why no one has rolled such a thing out until recently. So T-Mobile is the first and only, I believe, unless you do know of another, company to offer 5G home internet.
Only one I know of. There was Clearwire in the 4G WiMAX era, but nothing.
Right, I remember that, and we actually did test it, and it was not. That was not, that was like getting you 3 megabit per second, which, at the time, I guess wasn't so terrible, but that's terrible for home internet.
Yeah.
Brandon, who lives in, I think he lives in, Brandon, who lives in South Carolina, was like, hey, I can get this in my area. I'm going to get it. And he got it. And for 2 weeks that he had it, it was fantastic. He was getting 500 megabit down and like 70 up.
Wow.
Which for $50 a month. He used something like 750 gigabytes of data at that time, because this is his home internet, and there's no cap. So he was using a ton of data because his family was using it for streaming on a bunch of different TVs. And so he wrote an article for us saying, this is fantastic. I'm so happy with it. And people read it. They were excited. Even though it's not normally subject to cover, he was doing it. It's a tech topic. We're like, hey, let's write about it.
Sure.
2 weeks after he got it.
In fairness, doing something this niche in this market is pretty enthusiast.
Yes. I mean, look, we're cool with stuff like this. I mean, I always tell our writers, like, if it happens to you, then it could be a really good story.
Sure.
So, like the story that you and I were talking about last week about wiping your computer, like, that happened to me. I have a computer. I needed one. So anyway, so after 2 weeks, we said, hey, why don't you do a follow-up story and like talk about how it's been for 2 weeks and like actually do something even more intense, like try streaming on like 3 or 4 TVs in 4K at the same exact time and report if that's okay. So like a couple hours into him working on the story, we get a message from him. My whole internet went out and I can't get it back. He tried calling T-Mobile and they had him do all the standard stuff that they have you. Did you turn it off and on again? Did
Sure.
you power cycle it? Whatever. Did you try taking the SIM card out and putting it back in? All that stuff. And then after they had him on for a long time, they said, "Oh, since we can't find another solution, we're telling you there's a tower being upgraded in your area. Try again. Try again in a couple of days." And
In a couple of
he was
days.
annoyed because, right? He's like, "This is my home internet. Like, I can't, just go without." So he canceled the service and he went back to Spectrum, which is what he had before. Now that would have been the end of the story, I guess, except that he started looking around the internet and it seems that there were a ton of complaints from people about the same thing happening to them, and they were never able to get back on the service again and had to cancel. Like a lot
Wow.
of people saying, like, I've signed up for the service. It was great for a few weeks or a month, and then it disconnected, and they sent me new hardware, and it didn't
Oh.
work. They like, I think they had sent brand new hardware too. It's not a hardware problem. We don't know exactly what it is, but we have one of the readers have. There are some towers that it does have something to do with the tower in that there are some types of towers that will not accept a connection from the home internet box. Even so,
Sure.
like a friend of his who has T-Mobile for phones, which he does not, came over and their phone worked fine. So
Right.
like T-Mobile service is working fine in his house, but home internet won't. Apparently, it may hit, like, if it hits a certain type of tower, it won't be given a connection or whatever. And
Oh.
that's different from your phone, which can kind of jump around to different towers. So anyway,
Because
we
it has to be a
have,
UC tower.
I guess. So anyway, the the long story short of it is he couldn't get the service back. Um, and T-Mobile didn't really have an answer when we contacted them. They're like, "Oh well, why don't you call our support again and we'll help you." Like, um, but we have a story coming out, perhaps tomorrow. We'll see, perhaps later in the week, where we've interviewed someone who is a former T-Mobile customer service employee who recently left and has some inside information about what is actually going on there, and
Wow.
it doesn't. Um, so we
I can't
also
wait for
heard
this.
from a we also heard from I won't spoil what the
No.
former person said right now, but uh, I will spoil that we also talked to a bunch of readers, and some of whom had I mean, there were actually a couple of people who actually had it continue to work for them, so good for
Sure.
them. But uh, there a whole bunch who had like voluntarily just mailed in and after reading the last article about this and said, like, this is terrible, mine doesn't work. And the best story was from someone who got the service, was getting terrible connectivity all along. They never had the 500 down that
Okay.
Brandon had, and um, when they finally, after many support calls, T-Mobile said to them, "Sorry, your area doesn't have good enough service for this," and and so they canceled his service. So they sold it to him when they never should have.
Wow.
In other words, so
Wow.
um, so unfortunately, it seems like this service has some issues.
Yeah, sounds like it. I know that I've got an alert for my address, and now I'm even more interested because I want to
I
try
mean,
it. Right? I
I
want
mean,
to try
I,
it at
I,
the very least
I
to be
hope
able to play in this
try it.
game.
Try try it and see what happens. I mean, you might luck out. It seems to me like maybe if there's not a lot of people taking up the whatever the good tower is near you, and then your connection, I guess, stays and it's good. I mean, I also don't know. I mean,
Oh, because
this
the
is
more
we.
people, the
It,
smaller the cell gets. And if you're on a ring,
yeah,
you might fall out of that cell when more things are connected. Fascinating.
yeah, that might have happened to him. I also wonder if the fact that he used so much data might have gotten him kicked off the tower or something. But
Maybe.
that's just pure speculation on my
Yeah.
part,
Yeah.
because there's not supposed to be a data cap. And let's be clear, like that, you and I have talked about data caps before.
Yeah.
He's not going around running a peer to peer server over here,
Sure.
serving you know, serving video files to people. Like he's just using it like the rest of us would use it, in that
Hmm.
he's cut the cord and he's got a family, and so there's multiple people using multiple devices at the
Sure.
same time streaming things.
Sure.
That's that's reality for a lot of people today. So
Yeah.
using a few hundred gigabytes of data in a couple of weeks is not crazy at all for a normal person.
No. What did we last time we did a story about average home internet usage, the average monthly usage for a household had gone up to 1.3 terabytes a month or something like that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Was that what it was? Something
So
like
in
that.
effect,
So I
oh,
mean,
okay, I didn't remember
he
that.
was just slightly ahead of at 750 for 2 weeks. Ever so slightly ahead of the average U.S.
Yeah,
household.
I'm not sure if that's a precise. I'm not sure if that's a
But
precise number when he's,
but yeah, but I mean, if we're
Yeah.
talking 750, that's only slightly ahead of the average
Yes,
consumer household.
and
And power, remember, they had to bump the baseline for what a power user was considered up to like 2.3 or something because of the shift of the average. Um, so yeah,
really, yeah,
he was well below power user at theoretically 1.5 ish over a
right,
2 week
yeah,
time period. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
weird.
Fair enough. So, so anyway, I mean, I would be really curious. I'd be really curious what happens. One more thought I'll give you on that is that my coworker Matt, who lives around here, Brandon lives in South Carolina, like I said,
Hmm.
but Matt lives in New Jersey. He got a notice that he could get it in his apartment, and he was eager to try it for the same reason. Like, I want to see what happens.
Yeah.
And he went to sign up. As soon as he signed up, he got an email saying, "Sorry that we don't actually have it in your area, even though you signed up." So, um,
Oh,
so in other words, uh, let me know if you do it. If you actually get a shipping notice that something which that they're
yeah.
shipping you the whatever you call the modem
Yeah, for sure.
device,
I
because
now more than ever I want to do this. Not necessarily because I want the service, but I've wanted to test it. Right? I thought that was a fascinating thing. I've wanted to test it. I tested out Clearwire long ago. I had one of those ugly black boxes for a little while.
yeah,
So yeah, I'd love to be able to test this and be able to compare it to what that was a decade plus ago, um, just to see what wireless home internet looks like. So I'm on a list. I want as soon as it's available, I will give it a shot. But you said that'll be this week, maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day.
yes, we're just getting some more detail from a couple sources, and then
Got it.
our follow up. So
Got it.
we'll see.
Look forward to that. This week's Piltch Point with Avram Piltch is proudly powered by PureVPN. The best way to protect your privacy online is with PureVPN. You can hide your online activities, say goodbye to regional restrictions, and improve your streaming quality. Plus, it's available for almost all of your devices. You can get a special price and a 31-day money-back guarantee right now by going to pilchpoint.live/PureVPN. All right, Avram, what have you got for us tonight?
All right, so let's talk about what you can buy right now in terms of a gaming laptop. So this is a great time. I think we mentioned this a few weeks ago. This is actually a fantastic time to buy a PC in terms of price and availability. Now, we do know that this fall we're likely going to see some new chips, both new CPUs and new graphics cards. And so if you want if you're a person who wants to live on the bleeding edge, okay, maybe wait 2-3 months because there's probably going to be some new CPUs and GPUs coming out. But if you do not have to live on the bleeding edge and you want a good value for your money, now is a fantastic time because all of the stock problems seem to be gone when it comes to graphics cards and CPUs. In fact, there is a glut, and with new parts about to come out, companies cannot wait to get rid of them. So things are going on sale. I mean, there may be even bigger sales around Black Friday, who knows? But right now, you can get a really solid, really good gaming laptop for less than $1,500. So what should we expect for under $1,500? First of all, we'll start with the most important feature for a gaming laptop in determining performance, and that's the graphics chip. Period. Like, it's not the CPU. CPU doesn't matter that much for, especially when you're doing gaming at 1080p resolution. I'm not to say it doesn't matter, but what matters the most by far is the quality of the graphics card you're getting. And so for under $1,500, your best graphics card is going to be either an NVIDIA RTX 3070 if you find a laptop on sale with a 3070. Now, normally that's an extreme sale. Normally, you're in this price range. You're talking about a 3060 card or a 3050 Ti. But the higher up that rung you can go, the better. Or if it's an AMD system, one with a Radeon 6800M, that is actually going to be a little better than a 3060 in terms of frame rates. Now, you should expect to be able to play on a sub $1,500, like a laptop that's between, say, $1,200 and $1,500. You should be able to play 1080 games at 1080p resolution and high or ultra high settings in the, let's say, 40 to 70 FPS range. If it is a lower end game or you lower the settings, you could go up the ladder in terms of frame rates. If you lower the resolution, you could go up the ladder in terms of frame rates. And if you turn on ray tracing, then you will see lower frame rates, but with the higher end cards there, you still will probably be able to play it at maybe in the 30, 40, 50 FPS range. So, and by the way, for folks who are up on the gamer lingo, FPS, frames per second, you really don't want to go below 30 frames per second because when you're watching a movie, you're mostly watching at, what is a standard movie frame rate, 24 or 29? Some are 29.
29.9 is kind of the standard production. 24 and 48 are the two kind of alternate. 24 is your I think your film rate. 29.9 is your digital video rate, and 48 is what Peter Jackson I think was using for a couple of movies that required special projectors and were really weird to watch.
Yes, soap opera effect. So
Yeah, exactly.
they call it, right? But anyway, not to get into that tangent. So you want 30 FPS for I would consider a game barely playable or not playable if it's below 30 FPS. Uh, Getting closer to 60 FPS is better, and hardcore gamers, they like to get closer to 100 or over 100 FPS. Those who do shooting games, they play Call of Duty, things like that, and especially competitively, Fortnite, something like that. The higher the frame rate, the better their aim. So that matters a lot. Now, all of these gaming laptops in this price range are going to have 1920 by 1080, otherwise known as 1080p screens. You're not going to get a 2K screen, and fortunately, you're not going to get a 720p screen. And the screens are all going to be high refresh rate, which means they're all going to be either 120, 144, or 165 hertz. There may be a couple that are above 165 hertz, although your graphics card probably can't deliver enough frames for that to matter. So again, forgive me if I'm telling folks what they already know, but the hertz is the amount of refreshes the screen does per second. And with modern technology, the graphics card, whether it's AMD or NVIDIA, tries to use variable adaptive sync. So it will say, oh, screen can show 165 hertz, means the screen can actually show 165 frames per second. But if the graphics card is only delivering 60 frames a second, then let's make the screen operate at 60 hertz so that they're synchronized. Because if they're not synchronized, then you have tearing and ghosting. So similarly, if for some reason your graphics card was trying to deliver 200 frames per second and your screen could only do 100, it would say, graphics card, sorry, you've got to max out at 144 frames so that we don't exceed the speed of the screen. So anyway, for what you are doing with these, the 165 hertz display is going to be probably more speed the graphics card can provide for the games that you're going to play. So aside from the screen and the graphics card, you can expect to get a 500 gigabyte to, maybe if you're lucky and you find a sale, 1 terabyte SSD, and you're going to get 16 gigabytes of RAM. If you spend less than $1,000, then you can expect that you'll probably be looking at more systems that have 8 gigabytes of RAM and a measly like 256 gigabyte SSD. Neither of those is very good to work with, especially the 256 gig SSD, considering that a modern game can take 50, 100, or 150 gigabytes all by itself. Fortunately, most of these laptops are upgradable.
Call of Duty Warzone has an install size, I think, currently of like 128 gig.
Right. So like, I guess if you had Windows 11, which they all come with, and the new Call of Duty had nothing else installed, and no other data, no pictures, no documents, then I guess you might make it. You might have 90% of your drive eaten up. But 256 gig is just really unacceptably low amount. Especially for if you're gaming. So the good news is most of these laptops are upgradable, and it costs a lot less to buy an SSD on the aftermarket than it does to buy a more expensive laptop. So that's something to keep in mind. One can get a very capable 1 terabyte SSD for about $80 these days, $80 to $85, sometimes less. So that's an upgrade option for you. You can also getting a 16 gigs of RAM to replace your 8 gig. If let's say they give you an 8 gig chip, so you have to yank it out and put two 8 gig matching chips or something. You can get a pair of SODIMMs for $50 to $75. So upgrading is not out of reach at all if you get lower specs. But so let's take a really quick look at a couple of things that are available right this minute that are within these price ranges. So over here, I have now this is a sale this week or clearance. So you always see things on sale and clearance, though. It just depends what each week. So this is a great deal right here because you're getting a Ryzen 9, which it's perfectly fine to get either an AMD or an Intel processor because the processor is much less important than the other things like the graphics card. You're getting a 3070, you're getting a 1 terabyte SSD, which is a nice size, and 16 gigs of RAM. And oh wow, something I said you probably can't get in this price range, a QHD or otherwise known as a 2K screen for $1479. That's not very common though. So let's look at what is a little more common. So here, this isn't under 1,000. This is one of the best under $1,000 deals here. The Acer Nitro 5 get for $849 or not if it's not on sale $999. You get a Core i5, an RTX 3050 Ti, which is I wouldn't turn ray tracing on with it, but it probably give you a good 30 to 50 frames per second at high settings, and a 512 gig SSD for $849. Another really good deal here is the Asus. Again, I guess there's some really good deals on Asus laptops in this price range. Is the Asus ROG Strix G15 Advantage Edition. Actually, this is also 2K screen. You get it with Ryzen 9 5980HX, which is a good processor, and the 6800M, which is actually, our test was about 15 to 20 frames per second faster than a 3060. So that's a really good deal here. Here's another one here where you see a 3070 and a Intel Core i7 and 512 gigabyte SSD for $1399. So that's what you can get if you're willing if you can spend under $1,500. Now, what are you missing out on? Well, you're missing out on some of the kind of nice design and creature comforts you get with some more expensive things. Like you notice there's no Alienware on this that I mentioned. You really will be hard pressed to find like an Alienware, which premier design, or Razer laptop, which is kind of premier design in this price range. But if what you're looking for is performance, is solid performance, then you will get it. The keyboard will be okay, the design will be okay, but it may or may not be the best keyboard or the most beautiful design that you could get on a gaming laptop with these specs.
Gotcha. Well, those sound like some pretty impressive PCs, honestly, especially in that price range. Two of them with 2K screens. That was a surprise for me.
Yeah, and 3070. So you actually with a 3070, you could take a stab at playing in 2K. I mean, you might not get fantastic frame rates, but you probably get in the 40 to 50 FPS range, maybe. So yeah, I mean, I think one thing to look for when you read reviews of these, which we have of many of those, is what is the color and brightness like on the screens, because while they're all probably usually in the same resolution and relative refresh rate, relatively similar refresh rates. I'm looking for ones that come out a little brighter, a little more colorful, is a plus. So, yeah, we're going to have a list of our favorite sub $1,500 laptops up in the next day or two on tomshardware.com. So come check it out, and we're continue to test, get in and test some other sub $1,500 and sub $1,000 gaming laptops, so folks can really take advantage and get something that is good and that they can really enjoy. My top piece of advice, though, is it doesn't have to be the latest.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be the latest model. It doesn't have, a lot of systems you could save a few bucks by getting it with last year's CPU, like an 11th gen core or a Ryzen 5000 instead of 6000 series processor.
Sure.
Like, it doesn't matter very much. Like, what the graphics card matters, but even getting last year's graphics card, if it is a good graphics card, then it will serve you well for years. You do not always need, if you are on any kind of a budget, and I think we all are, you do not have to have the latest generation to have a great experience that will last you a very long time.
Yeah, for sure. And it, a lot of it comes down to what your intentions are, right? Because you think about esports, which is we've been involved in that with Strike, with esports. You tend to keep your resolution at 1080. You tend to keep your render mode at normal or high, because the frame rate's the most important thing. And so a lot of people are using 2060s in that category because you can easily get it done for inexpensive and get what you need on the specs. So yeah, you don't necessarily always have to have the latest and greatest to have the best performance, depending on what it is you're trying to accomplish.
And that's what the 144 hertz is for, really. Like, people who are just playing to play, who aren't trying to be sort of play esports type titles, something like an Apex Legend or Legends or something like that. They are probably going to be happy playing at 60, 70 FPS. But for folks who are playing competitively, having 144 hertz or if they could go even up the scale higher to like 300 hertz, they are going to have a better chance to hit a target in a game. I had this is somewhat of an aside from the issue of buying a gaming laptop specifically, or it's certainly not a sub $1,500 one. But I had a meeting with NVIDIA a few weeks ago, and they want to talk to us about latency, how and how important it is to do things that some of their technologies are that reduce latency. And one thing I really never thought about, perhaps you've thought about it, but I certainly haven't, is that what you see on your screen is you're looking into the past, right? Like, the video card and the computer are actually like a certain number of milliseconds ahead of what you're seeing. So if you saw a character run in front of you, it might actually be past you in the computer's mind by the time you see it. It's almost like staring into outer space, where you see light from a distant star that's traveled, that is showing you something going to happen a million years ago.
I would say, and could have been gone for thousands or millions of years.
Right. It could be gone now, but we don't know, because what we're seeing is still there. So in the world of computers, that time difference might be 70 milliseconds, but that's a valuable 70 milliseconds. And like, using a technology that lowers the latency down to like 30 milliseconds might be the difference between shooting and hitting your shot on a fast moving object and
Mm-hmm.
not and shooting at what you think is in front of you but is already. Um, that's why having the high refresh rate matters and having things low latency matter. There's some technologies in the graphics and in the gaming that are lowering latency, but also if you're using peripherals, uh, that matters too. Like you get you get a mouse with a high polling rate, you get a keyboard with a high polling rate,
Mm-hmm.
because you know you want to make sure that your keystroke, that your click gets processed and sets the computer really
Yep.
fast.
100%. And also, one thing that people don't tend to look at the spec on is the monitor's delay. Um, the ones I've got a couple at Strike, 1 and 3 millisecond delays on the monitors when a consumer monitor tends to be 30 plus. Uh, that is a significant difference in latency,
Yeah,
ad- introduced entirely by the monitor. And then if you're doing things like streaming, if you've got like a dual PC setup and you're pushing from one to the other, you might have a splitter or something involved, and that might be adding latency as well.
yeah. So there's so much opportunity for something to slow you down,
Mm-hmm.
and it might be, barely perceptible to, that amount of time might be very hard to perceive, but
Right.
it matters. And they showed me in some demos that, like, hey, look, we've done something to lower the latency. Here's a character that like was running across the screen past like an open door. Can you hit him? And like without the latency improvement, we could not. Matt and I could not hit the target. Once they put on the improved latency, we hit the target. So
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. I look forward to seeing and hearing more about that since we've, you know, we dived in full feet first into this.
yeah,
I look forward to hearing more
yeah.
about that in the future.
Yep, we will have more about that. We do test latency, but we're working on some new tests for that too.
Cool. Well, Avram, as always, I appreciate it. That was an extra interesting topic for me this evening, and I know a lot of our viewers have had questions about gaming stuff. They respond to the laptop topics all the time, so definitely appreciate that. And as always, I look forward to what we talk about next time. This week's Extra Life on F5 Live is proudly powered by EXA. EXA brings the latest technology to gamers, offering the most immersive products for the ultimate gaming experience. They've compiled the best elements of cutting-edge ENC tech, Bluetooth 5, 7.1 surround, plus extra features like dual mics and low latency into their headsets so everyone can enjoy a sensational gaming experience. And they've got headsets for Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, and PC, plus they won't break the bank. To learn more about the headsets that are available and any current promotions, you can go to f5live.tv/exa. And speaking of Strike, I can tell you we are running some EXA stuff over there, and cannot believe how good they are for the price. Anyway, that's not our topic, but we are going to talk about prices. This week, it was revealed that Sony plans to increase the price of the PlayStation 5 in almost all major markets. In fact, the only market where they said the price will not be increasing is here in the United States. Everybody else is seeing an increase. They're ranging from the equivalent of about $30 to $80 US, obviously all in local currency. It doesn't matter the model that you're talking about. The the standard PlayStation and the all digital edition are both getting the price increases, and they tend to be about the same price increase for both models. It's region to region where the price increase seems to vary. They're saying that it is because of inflation, which I think we can, if you understand the way manufacturing works, the PlayStation is made up of components. Those components are made up of components, and at every level they're getting hit by inflation. I can understand how that would have an impact. Generally, the way this works is the other way. The more that are produced, the less expensive it is to produce a component. But in this case, we're seeing the actual cost of the core underlying chips and silicon going up, and therefore everything above it goes up. And so Sony is increasing the price. However, Microsoft and Nintendo have both come out and said, we're not going to do that. We're good with where we are. Our prices, we have absolutely no intention of changing the prices as of right now, and don't see it as a possibility in the foreseeable future, which is interesting. I think that's either, personally, the two companies saying, we already had a margin on these things and we're not quite as worried about the increase in cost, or it's a little bit like the PlayStation 4, Xbox One E3 thing, where Microsoft went first. PlayStation saw how bad the market responded to them saying it was going to ship with the Kinect and the always on and all that. And Sony, in like the 4 or 5 hours between Microsoft's press conference and theirs, they changed their business model. Because they were going to require PlayStation Move, and they were going to have an always-on feature. And in that 5 hours, they changed their business model for the PS4. This might be the same thing, but in reverse. Microsoft and Nintendo going, ooh, people are really mad at Sony. We promise we won't do the same thing. I don't know.
I mean, it's good publicity. It's good publicity for them, I guess, to say that. But I don't understand the anger. The people who are angry about this probably already bought one, right? So,
yeah,
if they're following it that closely, that they are. I mean, there's just a lot of consumers out there who they want to buy a PlayStation for themselves or their kid or something like that, and they're probably not sitting there reading news about the cost of PlayStations all day. So people who are keeping up with this news probably already have one if they wanted one, unless they're so. I mean,
in fairness, the PlayStation 5 is still difficult to get. You can get your hands on a Series X. The Series S has never been a problem. The Switch has generally not been a problem, but the PS5 is still difficult to get. So there are. I mean, I'm on a list. I've been on a list for 3.
Okay.
I'm on 3 lists,
maybe those folks
actually, for a PS5.
Maybe those folks are upset, unless they're in the United States where they're not getting a price raise.
Sure.
Which why not? Why is America getting a break?
Maybe the margin's already better here. I don't know. Maybe they're already differently. I have no idea.
I mean, it's weird. America. I mean, America gets a real break.
Are they looking to avoid the wrath of Hip Hop Gamer this time?
America gets America gets a real break when it comes to the cost of electronics. The cost of electronics is cheaper here than pretty much anywhere. It is cheaper here. It is no cheaper in Taiwan. Right. Having been to Taiwan a lot of times, I go to the computer mall and I'm always like, oh, I bet there's going to be a cheap CPU here. I bet I'm going to save money. Never. It's usually more expensive, or at best it's the same price. So and if you do the exchange rates, people in the UK are always paying more. People in Europe are always paying more. So I don't know about various Asian countries what people pay, but like people, America is the cheapest place, is arguably the cheapest place to buy electronics. So, um, I don't know why. Maybe people think this market is valuable, so they charge less. Uh,
Maybe.
Maybe there's some economies of scale here. Uh, I don't know. Maybe tariffs are less. I
Lots
don't
of
know. I
possibilities
mean,
for sure.
also, some of the prices in other countries are including tax in the price,
True.
whereas here we don't. Like you pay the tax, but it's not included when they mention it. Like in UK, they have VAT built into the price of things.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, I mean, anyway,
It's
here's what I
interesting.
think is going to happen. Yeah, it's here's what I think is going to happen. Although I don't think it matters because we're here in the U.S., so we're probably not going to notice, to be honest. But I think that they're going to raise the price by a little bit, and then come holiday shopping time, they're just going to bring it back to what it was and call it a sale.
Could be. The going out of business liquidation sale methodology. Raise the price and then drop it and say it's on sale.
I mean, we see it all the time. We see it with Amazon Prime Day, and
Yeah, yeah.
and other and is where you'll see something like if you look at the price history of something, it was low. Then, like a few weeks before, or just even sometimes just a few days before, it shoots up again. And then for the deal holiday or whatever, it gets lower. And I'm not like
Mm-hmm.
so you see that with various vendors.
Yep.
I'm not saying it's actually Amazon. It's like the vendors that use it.
Right,
There's
right.
you will see you'll see this happen a lot. So it's a common strategy.
It
Uh,
is.
if 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 wants to partake in this strategy, they're going to have to raise the price right about now if they want to lower it in November.
True. True. I know. I
So
know. That like with Hilco liquidations. Anybody who's worked in retail and been through a Hilco liquidation, um, you'll have something on clearance in your store before Hilco buys everything, and it's on clearance for like 1997. And no, this is not a real example from when Hilco did the liquidation at Radio Shack at all. Yes, it is. Uh, Something was on clearance for 1997 with a retail of 99.99, and what did Hilco do? It went back up to 99.99, and they put a 10% discount on it. Ha ha! So
right,
before the going out of business sale, it was less expensive than during. Whoops. So yeah,
yep,
that's a long-standing thing. So yeah, it's totally possible that we'll see something like that. Maybe or maybe not here in the U.S. though.
yep.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. It's definitely an interesting situation. I don't know that we've seen the price of a console. I mean, until it's out of production, and then that makes things different. But while a console's in production, I don't know that we've seen a console go up before. The Oculus uh, Quest 2 just went up $100 without any new features 3 or 4 weeks ago. But that's not exactly a console per se. But this isn't the first time we're seeing something in this space do it, though, because the Quest 2 just did it. So I don't know. Hopefully, this isn't going to become a trend in the space of the products whose prices were announced, right? And I think that's part of it, right? So they announced the PlayStation 5. This is going to be its retail price. Hooray! We all know what we're getting ourselves into, getting excited about the product, and then it goes up later. That's uncommon. So
Later is like 2 years later though. So
it's 2 years later and it's going up, though. That's
that's not common, no,
no.
but thing.
And certainly not in
I
this
mean,
space. In the gaming console space, I think it might be unheard of. I don't know for sure, but I think this is the first time it's happened. So that it's setting up first to anything uncomfortable is never a win, right? So that might be where some of the anger is coming from. I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying that might be where it's coming from.
I mean, nobody likes to see the price of anything go up.
True.
So
true.
Sure.
So anyway,
nobody likes to see the price of anything go up.
Yeah. We'll be keeping an eye on this to see if maybe at the holidays they put it on sale back to the regular price, or if this just happens, or and if it ever comes and affects us here in the U.S. This week's news from the tubes and F5 Live is proudly powered by Malwarebytes. Whether you use a PC, a Mac, or a mobile device, Malwarebytes Premium is the company's strongest protection ever. It fights threats that traditional antivirus software can't stop, plus traditional issues like rogues, dialers, rootkits, exploits, and a whole lot more. It allows you to use your computer and mobile devices with confidence and peace of mind. And to learn more and get a special price, you can go to f5live.tv/malwarebytes. Speaking of privacy, DuckDuckGo once again is in the news. A year ago, we basically never talked about these guys, and now it seems like they're filling up our timeline. This week, it's because a new product from them called Email Protection has gone public beta. This service acts essentially as an email proxy. You give out your whatever@duck.com email address when you sign up to make a purchase online, or to get coupons from Bed Bath & Beyond before they go out of business, or whatever you're doing, you give them this email address, and what happens is before they forward the email to you, they pull out tracking codes. Now, a lot of tracking codes are innocuous and have nothing to do with nothing. The UTM, for example, if you were to click on an article in your RSS feeder, RSS reader from either us, probably Tom's Hardware, there'll be a little thing at the end that says UTM equals RSS or something to that effect. Just lets us know, where people are consuming our content the most. Same thing with from an email, UTM equals email. But there are other tracking systems in emails that are less innocuous, less straightforward. And, some people don't like that kind of information that they didn't necessarily request, because, maybe you give your email to a retail store and then they sell it to other people, and you click on an email, you're like, why did I get this? And you open it, and now they know that you opened it. They know where you opened it from, what time of day you opened it, all that. And you didn't ask for any of that. So all of that gets pulled out before being sent over to you, which is an interesting service as more and more people are becoming interested in their online privacy, which a couple of years ago, we had a conversation that we thought people had totally given up on caring about online privacy, but that does not seem to be the case anymore. It seems to be pendulum swinging back the other way, to the extreme other side, which is where I think this service comes in. It's definitely an interesting thing. We've seen email proxies before, but I don't know that we've ever seen anything quite like this in an email proxy.
I mean, I don't know. It just seems like, I get it. It's sort of like, what's that service that we're always talking about with the credit, where you have a credit card proxy?
Privacy.com.
Privacy.com, right?
F5live.tv/privacy. Got $5 to try it.
That's a great idea because you really have to worry about what happens to
Right.
your card number. But do you really have to worry about what happens to your email address? I feel like there's I feel like the spam filters that Gmail uses are pretty good, if not overly aggressive. Like, so I don't get too worried about hit with too much spam. I get worried about when I sign up for something and don't get it because it ends up in the spam folder. Uh, so I don't know. I just feel like the stakes are a lot lower than something like with your credit card
Sure.
because
Sure.
what are they going to do? Annoy you by sending you more mail?
Right. Yeah. And you're right. The Gmail multi-category I think works really well. Like with the spam and then the promotion category and stuff like that. I think that generally works pretty well. Then there's the, inbox and other or whatever in Outlook or Office 365, and that seems to work really well as well. But whatevs. If people are, if this seems like something that you're interested in, and in the interest of full disclosure, I've already got mine. I haven't used it for anything, but I've got mine partially because I don't want somebody else to. I have some issues with other people using my name, but but yeah, it's an interesting service. If you want to give it a try, it's a free service. You can go to the website. I believe might be. I think it's weird. We've got it on the website in the article, and my mouse is acting very strangely tonight. No, it's just duckduckgo.com/email. Or if you use the mobile web browser, you can do it from there as well. And sign up. It's free. You set up your forwarding, and you're all set. It looks pretty straightforward. I'm going to mess around with it myself just to see. I kind of want to create like an alternate reality, like Gmail or Outlook account, and then an alternate reality DuckDuckGo account, and see just how much stuff they are stripping out of things. I think that could be an interesting experiment. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't know how harmful this is, but for those who are, pendulum swinging the other way real hard, it's a free service from a company that has exhibited enough evidence that they can be trusted with privacy. Probably give it a try if this is in your area of interest. This week's DRM Not Included on F5 Live is proudly powered by Amazon Prime. You get free shipping, but there's a whole lot more. You get free music with Amazon Prime Music, free TV, movies, and documentaries with Amazon Prime Video, free games, and a free Twitch subscription with Amazon Prime Gaming, plus additional features. Right now, we've got a 30-day free trial, the ability to give it as a gift, plus links to these features and more, all in one convenient place by going to f5live.tv/prime. Over the last couple of months, there's been a lot of discussion about the current state of the DC universes, both the TV and the movie universes. As far as TV is concerned, the likely dissolving of what is currently called the CW, and likely will have a new name in the coming months, as I think Nexstar is supposed to be purchasing the network, has been pretty intense, what we've seen. A lot of the series are gone. More look like they might be on the chopping block. There's no telling what's going to happen there. Over on the movie side, we know that one movie has already been canceled 90% of the way through. Two.
2 movies.
What's the two?
Scoob, the sequel to Scoob.
Oh,
Scoob 2. Animated movie, but it's still a movie.
sure, sure. Okay. Um, so we've seen several movies get axed. There are shows that appear to be on the chopping block. There was a threat made to the current Flash that if things don't righten up in real life, that the Flash film might not actually finish production. So there's a lot going on over on the movie side as well. The second Aquaman movie has been delayed, which pushed something else, Shazam maybe, back as well. So there's a lot going on over at DC. The Warner Brother Discovery merger didn't make it any clearer. It muddied the water for sure. But one of the things that Warner Brothers Discovery has been trying to do is to find their Kevin Feige. In the Marvel world, before Kevin Feige, there was no direction. Everything was kind of its own thing. The Fantastic Four was happening over here, and X-Men was happening over here, and Spider-Man was over here, and they were all unrelated to one another. And then Marvel decided we're going to produce our own things. They brought in somebody to oversee the general direction of where all Marvel properties would go, and what we know of as the DC or the MCU was born. And the MCU is one entity that encompasses basically everything, and in recent storytelling has managed to even semi-retcon non-MCU titles into its canon, which is pretty impressive. But of course, DC has not really had that. They haven't had a direction in their films. Yes, they did the Justice League with the existing characters, but the directors of those characters didn't have full control over their characters in the story in the same way that, the Marvel directors have control over their characters in the Avengers films. And it looks like they have found somebody to step into this role. Dan Lin would be the person who is currently in discussions to step into this role. Dan would actually skip people who should be above him and actually report directly to the CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery, indicating that the new, WBD corporation seems to have more interest in what's happening over on the DC side of the house than maybe Warner Media did themselves. I don't know. It obviously worked real well on the Marvel side. Do you think Warner Brothers Discovery can pull off something that Marvel and Disney did?
You know what? I think this is. It's all about having the right people. So I think
True.
they are. So I think they're right that they haven't had the right people. The question is, do you have the right people? Do you empower the right people? Do you create a culture of success?
Yeah.
And like, that's a very human issue that is really hard for us to say. I don't know much about this person. So it's hard to say. I mean,
I can tell you that he was executive producer for the Lego Movie, the modern versions of the It films, Godzilla King of Monsters, has a lot of stuff under his belt, and is on the current list of 30 most powerful film producers in Hollywood.
Okay, I mean, here's the thing, right?
At least he's credentialed, right? They're not just picking up a nobody and saying, "Be in charge, please." So that's good.
Right. I mean, it's hard to say, right? I mean, I
Sure.
think part of what went wrong is they were always very interested in doing what Marvel was doing because Marvel
Right.
started first, right? Marvel started with Iron Man, created the shared universe. DC was trying to play catch up, and they started with Man of Steel, and then they did Batman versus Superman, and then they brought Wonder Woman in, and and Aquaman in, and Justice League, and they've actually had so to say that they haven't had a shared universe is not correct. They actually have,
Mhm.
and I don't. Um, I think the problem is the quality of the films has has been very much a mixed bag,
Yeah,
and
inconsistent.
it hasn't gotten a good reputation. Like
Yeah,
some of the films actually, in
are
my
astounding.
opinion, are good. Are good. I liked the original Shazam movie. I thought that was really good. I liked the original the first Wonder
100%.
Woman movie. I thought
Yep.
was fantastic. Um, Aquaman was tolerable.
But
Uh,
so one of the problems, right, is the first Wonder Woman movie was fantastic, and then while played by the same woman, Wonder Woman in Justice League appeared to be a different character, right? The,
right,
the personality was different because she wasn't being written by the Wonder Woman team, which is one of the things that happened inside of Marvel when they do the Avengers movies. Iron Man is always written by the Iron Man team to maintain consistency. It's not a different writing team that comes in and writes all the characters. His dialogue, his character arc is always done by the team that does the Iron Man movies. And it's that way with all
right.
of the characters, which was not the case with the Justice League movie. The fact that they allowed the directors to even be on set seemed to be um, please stop complaining more than it was. We want to
Well,
maintain
they also
consistency.
couldn't stick with like I don't think I mean I'm not a big fan of Zack Snyder or whatever, but that they
Mm-hmm.
got rid of him and then they replaced him with Joss Whedon in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of situation rarely works out
Yeah.
when you change directors in the middle of the movie. Uh, see Solo, a Star Wars story.
Mm-hmm.
So it you really have to. You really have to have consistency, trust with the folks that you have. But I also think whoever decided that like the aesthetic for the DC movies, whoever decided the aesthetic for the DC movies should be fired and never work again, because like they just not look. They don't look. They look like horrible, cheap CGI.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is really dark, so it's hard to see, which I guess is trying to mask some of the poor CGI. Everything, unlike comic books, which are supposed to be bright and colorful, like the movies are just that. A lot of the movies are just dull with
Yeah.
poor CGI, CGI that just looks fake. And I mean, I think you could really poor writing and really poor acting. You
Yeah.
know, it's just it it now is that the fault of the directors, the people who ran it, the fault of WB as a whole?
Is it
I don't know.
is
There's
it
certainly a lot of drama behind the
it,
scenes.
is it Walter Harmada or
Hamada, yeah, yeah. I
whoever
mean,
is in
he's
charge of DC Films? Who, right? Where is the where does the blame lie? It's probably higher up,
it's
considering they're all kind of doing that. Somebody forgot to turn the lights on aesthetic.
right. Yeah, it's. I mean, on the other hand, some of them they like manage to break out. So like I don't Wonder Woman was the first Wonder Woman was a little darkly lit in parts, but
In parts.
but not badly so.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't like the plot as much of Wonder Woman 1984, but it was certainly
Yeah.
brighter coloring, and
It definitely had the
Shazam,
1984 thing going on.
yes, and Shazam was pretty.
Hmm.
I think was pretty well
Sure.
directed wherever. So I don't know. I mean, none of it is at the
But it's
quality
hit or
level
miss.
of Marvel.
Yeah, it's hit or
None
miss.
of the movies is at the quality level of a decent Marvel movie. So
Right.
it's
No,
hard to.
nothing's been nothing's been Iron Man 2, but also nothing's been the Incredible Hulk. In fairness, right? Marvel has a wide range too, but their median is somewhere up here, and DC's
Yeah,
median is somewhere in the middle. But I think Marvel has had lower lows. The Incredible Hulk, which
yeah,
technically is the
yeah.
beginning of the MCU because it was out before Iron Man, technically, and the events of that take place right before Iron Man. But since then, they've stopped trying to reboot Hulk, and they've generally had big hits. DC tends to median out in the middle, though.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so it's hard to say.
So,
Are they going to have less drama? Are they going to
right?
do? Are they going to do a better job? Like their TV, actually, the DC TV has been quite good.
Yeah,
Uh, so
which was which
if you
was
don't.
run independently from the films.
Right, right. So maybe they should take the folks who did the TV and put them in charge. Take Greg Berlanti, who did the TV shows, and put him in charge
Sure.
because he did a pretty good job on a pretty tight budget.
Yeah.
I mean, they kind of ran Arrow and Flash into the ground, but he did a pretty good job. And
Sure.
then
Sure.
like on the more freewheeling Titans show and Doom Patrol did better, but now they've canceled. I believe they canceled Doom Patrol permanent, and I don't know if Titans. I think they're going to finish filming the last season of it or something, and then kill it.
I think
So
I think it's going to. I'm not positive on this, so don't quote me. But I think it's suffering the same fate as uh, Flash, that was allowed to finish filming what they were essentially finish what they were filming and then create a wrap up story. Because the Flash's final outing, I think, is only 9 episodes.
uh, anyway,
But
yeah, it's
so
very
so here's some positives about Lynn here. Uh, Alan Horn, who was the former Disney chairman, who was responsible for the Marvel reorganization that became Phage, is the one who recommended him for this role. So it's worked once before under his recommendation. It might work again under different properties, so long as everybody believes in it. And I think that's been one of the problems, right? Warner has been absolute chaos as a corporation over the last couple of years, right? They were
yeah.
they were Time Warner, and then they were part of AT&T, and they were Warner Media, and now they're part of Discovery, and from day to day nobody knew who was going to sign their checks. Right? And so I think every time something happened within that corporate structure, I think they had different priorities. I think some people cared, some people didn't. Some versions of Warner wanted a strong DC universe. Some versions of Warner didn't care or were even annoyed that it was there. Yeah. And so all of this seems to suggest that the current version of Warner, which let's cross our fingers that this is the one that sticks, this incarnation of Warner Brothers and therefore DC does seem to want to clean up some issues across the Warner ecosystem. This version of the company seems to want to clean up issues overall and start doing things correctly instead of easy. So maybe that's what's happening here, and maybe what they're saying is we want to do this right. We want to stop doing the easy thing, and do right by the fans and the stockholders all in one move. And hopefully it works out, because DC's got a lot of cool properties, a lot of properties that we all know. And over the last couple of years, thanks to the CW shows, properties that a lot of people didn't know that do now, that like them.
Yeah, well then maybe though they shouldn't have canceled before bringing this person on. Maybe they shouldn't have canceled some of the good stuff they had going on.
Well, you know, some of it may have been production changes that happened before the merger, trying to make the price more whatever, and who knows. There's so much stuff going on behind the scenes. Like I said, total chaos in that corporation. There's no way of knowing exactly what's happening in there day to day. So, you know, maybe there'll be a direction coming up soon. All we can do is cross our fingers. Well, that is our show. Thank you to those of you who joined us live. We have had a tremendous number of people watching live tonight, which is interesting because I had the same thing on my previous show tonight. So thank you to all of you who joined us live. If you didn't and would like to in the future, Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, you can go to f5live.tv/join us. There you can chat with us in the studio, give us your feedback on the topics as we talk about them. It's a lot of fun. We always appreciate that. If you're not able to join us live, that is okay as well. You can always go to PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe, and there you'll see all of our shows, F5 Live, Piltch Point, PLUGHITZ Live Presents, and a whole lot more. And you'll also find all of the ways that you can watch, listen, and follow along. Next week is Labor Day here in the United States, and so we will not have a show next week because family time. We'll be doing some stuff here, both with the company and with the family, and we hope that our viewers will get the opportunity to do the same thing. So we will not have a show next week, and then the week after we should be back to normal. We've got some stuff coming up in October that we're trying to work out, because October will be Roboticon Tampa Bay 2022. We're trying to work out what the structure of that's going to be, because it's every weekend in October, all weekend, and I will be very sleepy. So it's possible that Kirk Corliss from GNC Week in Review will be helping us out in putting the show together. We might do what we tried to do a couple of weeks ago, before Avram's computer decided to.
Hey, it hasn't crashed yet. It
Fantastic.
hasn't now. So it hasn't the last since we last talked either. So
fantastic. So hopefully that will stay, and maybe we'll do something like that through October, and Kirk can put the show together for us. So we'll see what all of that looks like. But until then, on behalf of the staff that's not here, I'm Scott.
I'm Avram.
And we'll see you back in 2 weeks. Ciao.